Hey, solos. All right, so you want to have a gloriously foliage filled, exotic, relaxing day. Where should you go? Well, here's a little solo spoiler. You're going to Animal Kingdom. Animal Kingdom is one of the four parks at Walt Disney World, Florida. And it is, oh God, every time I think of it, I just think of it like just full of, like I say, foliage, like exotic plants. I don't know. I just want to keep saying plants and foliage. So so I guess you get the drift. And then there's just the most amazing imagineering of the different lands. And so you really feel like you are in a small village in a country in Africa, or you are in a small area in a place in Asia. And it's just so lovely. And also because it is a much more chill. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I already told you this solo spoiler. Let's get into the episode. Hi, everyone. This is Samantha. Welcome to the podcast Solo Magic, the magic of going to Disney World solo. This is a new podcast, and so make sure that you are subscribing and rating so that other people can know about it and that, we can kind of grow this community. Speaking of community, go on to Instagram and follow me on Instagram. It is Disney_solo_magic. And that's where you can connect with me, tell me your own stories. And I really hope in June we will have some guest speakers to talk about their experiences at Walt Disney World. So why don't we just get right into it and talking about going to Animal Kingdom as a solo adult. Let's get into it. All right, so this is the fourth episode in the series that I am doing about going to Disney solo to the four main parks. Next week I'll be talking about Disney Springs, but this week I'm talking about Animal Kingdom. Last week I talked about Hollywood Studios. The week before I talked about Epcot, and the week before that I talked about Magic Kingdom. For me, Magic Kingdom was really easy to come up with a few key tips about going to Magic Kingdom as a solo. At Epcot, I struggled. I said this because I like it so much. I love it so much that to me it's just go and do it, Hollywood Studios, I also struggled with because I don't actually go there that much. So I also asked people on Instagram for their feedback, which again was great. But for Animal Kingdom, kind of like Magic Kingdom, maybe actually just the word kingdom has to be in the park title for me to find this easy. I also felt it was kind of easy to come up with some tips. And I'm not quite sure why that is in relationship to Epcot. No, I guess I do know why, because for me, Animal Kingdom is this nice kind of contained space. And if I was just to give tips about going to World Showcase, I think I would, World Showcase and Epcot, I think it would be easier. But Epcot is a big hole. Anyway, whatever. I'm not talking about Epcot. I'm talking about Animal Kingdom. Now, Animal Kingdom has 5 different areas. They have the main area, which is the Tree of Life area. They have Pandora, which is Avatar World. They have Dinosaur Land, which is a ... And then there's Africa, and then there's Asia. For me, when I think of Animal Kingdom, I really just think of Tree of Life, Africa, and Asia. I have only been to Pandora Land once or twice. I don't really know the movies that well because I'm not really a ride person. Going to Flight of Passage, which is the main ride, is just not a priority for me. But it is super impressive when you walk through it. When I walk through, I mentioned this last week, when I walk through Star Wars Land in Hollywood Studios, because I know that people are gung-ho about Star Wars, I go in there and I'm I don't know what to say. Princesses, I don't know, this isn't my thing. In Pandora, it is not like that because do you know anyone who's a diehard Avatar fan who dresses up as Avatar and has whole rooms full and whole fandoms there is with Star Wars? No, you could you could dress up and do a Disney bound of Avatar characters, and you could love Avatar, but there isn't the same type of fandom around Avatar that there is around Star Wars. So it's definitely cool to like look and walk around and see everything. But because I don't know the movies that well, I can't connect to it. And I am a type of person that really, really loves immersive experiences. But if I don't know what I'm being immersed in, it just doesn't connect with me and makes me feel like confused. Like my whole body is like, what, why? I don't understand. Like, cool, but also why? The Dinosaur Land is also another area that in the last 25 years, I have been to 3 times. And every time I'm like, ugh, get me out of here. The last time I went to Dinosaur Land was in my last solo trip in January, and I went to get a Band-Aid because I had a blister on my ankle. And actually, it was really great because there is a pack of Band-Aids. If you ask at the gift store, I don't know if this is all the gift stores, and the pack of Band-Aids was actually very reasonably priced. So it was a lifesaver despite being in Dinosaur Land. Now, Dinosaur Land seems really weird and not well themed and very confusing. Molly from Mammoth Club, when she was a cast member at Disney, she did part of her like training at Dino Land, and so there are some videos that she does where she talks about the whole like history and the theming of Dino Land. And when you hear this story, it makes so much more sense, and I do actually quite appreciate all the details when I heard that. But aesthetically, like, nah, I'm not into it. And not that I don't like dinosaurs. Like, I haven't been to Jurassic Park for 35 years. But excuse I haven't been to Universal Studios in 35 years. But I would go to Universal Studios just to see all the Jurassic Park stuff. Like, I don't mind dinosaurs. So, yeah, I don't mind the idea of dinosaurs. But Dinosaur Land, to me, the aesthetics are off. So for me, again, I kind of skip those 2 areas and focus on Africa and Asia, and then the Tree of Life area. And there is enough in that for you to really, really have a most amazing day. I should also just say about Dinosaur Land, like, if you are planning on going to Animal Kingdom to see Dinosaur Land and you're saving up for a trip in the next 3 years or whatever, know that, like, in 3 years, Dinosaur Land might not be there. There's a lot of discussions about expansions that there will be happening to Disney World and Disneyland. And one of the strong suggestions is that Dino Land is on its last days. Oh, please think of an asteroid, like, clever quip here, like a pun or something. And, like, please insert it because I can't think of anything, but I know. Oh, I got it. Dinosaur Land is close to extinction. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. You can send me the ones that you thought of on Instagram. Okay, so let's get into the 3 tips. And the 3 tips, it makes sense whether or not you are spending a lot of time in Dino Land and Pandora, along with Africa and Asia as well. But I don't have as much experience like using these 3 tips in those 2 areas of the park. So the first tip for solo adults in going to Animal Kingdom is plan on taking it slow. Even though Animal Kingdom is the largest park of the 4 parks in terms of acreage, it actually doesn't have as big of a public footprint because they have the large safari area, and that counts as part of that acreage. So it isn't a huge park that you would walk necessarily, but literally every single step that you are walking has a tremendous amount of thoughtful, immersive details, whether that is the plants, whether there is an animal exhibit and you're like, oh, there are animals like right there. Oh, there are kangaroos. Where did they come from? There are so many like hidden little nooks to sit and just like watch the water. So Animal Kingdom has this big like river that runs through a key element of Africa and Asia, and there are so many seating areas that are just kind of hidden facing the water, and it's so chill and relaxed. I think there are facts, 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 that say that Animal Kingdom is by far the warmest of the parks because the all of the foliage, all of the plants like are creating a bit of a greenhouse effect. But I find it the opposite actually. And maybe because the greenhouse effect also has like condensation, but I find Animal Kingdom like the coolest of all of the parks, and I think it's because there are so many shady places to go and sit and hang out and watch the water or watch the animals and just have a really awesome time. I am a big iced tea fan and a big like non-alcoholic drink fan. And there is this one like tea shop. It's now a Joffrey's. It doesn't have quite the kind of same cool variety of iced teas that they did. Oh God, I hate saying 20 years ago, but 20 years ago. But you can still get a really nice iced tea there and like sit and watch the water, and it's like, oh, it's just so lovely. In the water too, they have all these like cavalcades on boats. They have these like pontoon boats that they dress up, and then there's some characters that you don't see very often, like oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Well, Scrooge McDuck, but then there's also like the storyline is that Scrooge McDuck has sponsored another duck to like fly around the world in 1920s, and so you get to see that duck as well. Let me see if I can look up that name really quickly. Give me a second. It's Launchpad McQuack. I don't know why I need to look that up. Of course, that just like rolls off the tip of your tongue, right? What's interesting though is because the characters are in these boats and you are a little bit elevated. Sometimes the like illusion of the characters, especially with this what is he called again? Launchpad McQuack, kind of gets lost because you are looking down into their mouths, and their mouths also make great places if there was a person inside to look out. So it is really cool, but there is a little bit of the illusion gone. You also can see like Mickey and Minnie and sometimes Pocahontas. I do not understand why Pocahontas is at Animal Kingdom. You're wondering quickly why Pocahontas shouldn't be at Animal Kingdom? Because Pocahontas was a historical person, part of the Powhatan Nation in what we now call America, North America. And she has nothing to do with Africa or Asia or dinosaurs or mythical creatures. Like, technically, historically, Pocahontas should be in Frontierland. Oh, I'm not gonna say what I'm thinking. Oh, anyway, sometimes you just gotta put that like historical stuff to the side. Okay, moving on. Anyway, there's just so many really, really cool places. And because the Imagineering is so detailed across Animal Kingdom, like even when you're seeing something that you think looks like a mess, it was created to look like a mess. And it actually isn't a mess. It's supposed like to demonstrate like a particular element of this little village that they are recreating. It's really, really, really fascinating. So if you go to Animal Kingdom thinking, okay, I'm just going to go, I'm going to do the rides, I'm going to eat this thing, I'm going to move on, you're missing the best part about Animal Kingdom. And as an adult who is going there by yourself, like, isn't that a wonderful thing that you can kind of slow down and look for those details that are important to you? And maybe details aren't important to you, and that's also cool. But then know that this tip for slowing down does still make sense, but that maybe that's not the park that you want to spend the most amount of time in. So I could go to Animal Kingdom for like practically a whole day and really just relax, just be there and relax and sit and eat something good, drink something good, be by the water. It's just really, really lovely, and be by the water, and also like take in the the impressive amount of imagineering and details that go into something like that. Like, I always come back from Animal Kingdom really inspired that there are, one, like jobs that allow you to put these things together, and two, that we have the capabilities and capacities as humans to make these kind of large scale representations of art. Like, it's really just artful. You also want to take it slow because one of the main attractions is a slow attraction. So Safaris is you going around with a whole bunch of other people in a vehicle that a cast member is literally driving, and you go around this created safari, and you get to see animals interacting outside of like normal cages. And it takes about 20 to 30 minutes. Like, you're lucky if it takes 30 minutes, because that probably means an animal has gotten in your way. That ride is not there for you just to be like, okay, I did it, moving on, but to really appreciate the animals that you get to see, and the ways that you get to see them interact in an area that looks fairly like natural to them, right? Not just like a cage at a zoo. Even though you don't really need Genie Plus at Animal Kingdom, because there aren't that many like big rides that you want to skip the lines on. I actually have bought Genie Plus just to skip the line at Kilimanjaro Safaris, because I love it so much, and I don't really love waiting in line. So I rather pay that extra premium just to skip the line to do that. Like, to me, that has made sense, because it is such a great, element of my day whenever I go to Animal Kingdom. There's also all these like walking trails, and I feel like I have missed like a quarter, no, maybe not a quarter, like an eighth of the walking trails, because I always kind of just follow my own footsteps. But there are so many walking trails where you get to see animals, and they're, again, always like created with these really cool, set pieces, essentially, so that you really feel immersed in these experiences. So just go and like take your time and really enjoy it. And this brings me to the second tip: be prepared to learn something. Like, Animal Kingdom was designed to be an educational park. Oh my gosh, there was a design principle where it was like you couldn't go 15 minutes without learning something at that park. There are so many different areas or opportunities set up for you to learn something, whether that's some text on a board, whether there's a cast member that can answer questions, whether that's a video. There's so many places to learn something. So when you're there, learn something. Like, make sure you learn something. Because that's kind of the goals of this particular park: for you to learn something, for you to develop a greater commitment to wildlife preservation. It's a really wonderful place to learn more about conservation, and issues with things like preservation and conservation across the world. And Disney is doing some amazing things when it comes to conservation and breeding programs. Like, go and learn something. Like, open your mind. Okay, so my like real life is related to educational theory. And educational theory principles are that you need to consent to learn. You have to agree that you are going to learn something. You need to connect your learning to prior knowledge, what you already know, and that the content has to be meaningful. But of course, what is defined as meaningful is really up to you. What is meaningful to me might not be meaningful to you. So my second tip for Animal Kingdom is to be open to learning something, which is that first principle of consenting to learn, and like identify things that are meaningful for you and in that learning. And you don't need to like do anything with that knowledge. You won't be tested on it or graded on it when you get back, but it is designed for that. And as an adult, you can really kind of absorb that learning a little bit more. They have this program called the Wilderness Explorers program that's like the Wilderness Explorers from Up, and they have all these badges like in Girl Guides or Boy Scouts. And it is designed as a children's program. I haven't done it ever as an adult, but maybe I'll try when I go later this month. Maybe I'll try and do it as an adult and see what that is like. Because I love a good badge. Like, I love a good badge. So that's my second tip, learn something. Oh, I forgot to mention in terms of learning something, there is a whole area that you take a small train to that's the vet station, the veterinary station. And sometimes you can like see if the veterinarians are giving exams and things like that. Like, it's really cool over there. So definitely take the train. And if you didn't want to see the veterinarians doing something, or you don't want to see any of the exhibits out there, there's also a petting zoo and like an animation studio that you can learn how to draw an animal. You can also just take the train, which is cool because you get to see some of the backstage areas of Animal Kingdom. And if you look really closely, you can see some of the animals in the backstage areas, which is awesome. Okay, the third tip is to consider the time of day that you're going, especially, oh my God, I'm just thinking about it right now, especially if you're going in the summer and it is going to be hot. So you know how like you as a human don't necessarily want to be outside when it's over 100 degrees? Yeah, nor do animals. Yeah, so if you're going for like Kilimanjaro safaris and all of those kind of animal exhibits, if you're going in the middle of the day at the peak of July, like you're not going to see a lot of animals, and you're not going to see a lot of animals like doing stuff. So if you go at the beginning of the day, and this is not a new tip, I'm just repeating things that people talk about all the time. If you go at the beginning of the day, you have a higher chance of seeing animals kind of move around. If you go at the end of the day, note that Kilimanjaro Safari, oh my God, I cannot say it. Kilimanjaro safaris close earlier than the rest of the park because the animals have to go in to eat, all that stuff. If you go in close to that time that part of the park is going to close, you might see the animals move a little bit because they're getting hungry and they know they're going to have their dinner soon. So a lot of people say go at the beginning of the day, and that is a really good tip. Also, go after the rain or during the rain, especially in those hot days, because again, the animals can cool off and then they're a little bit more apt to walking around and doing stuff. Animal Kingdom is the only park that I will rope drop. I will go earlier. I've said this many times, I'm not a morning person, and if I'm going by myself, I am not forcing myself to get up any earlier than my body wants to. But for Animal Kingdom, I do, because Kilimanjaro safaris is such an important part of my experience that I want to make sure that I see it. Also, a lot of people will do Animal Kingdom in the morning and then just like leave by 2 o'clock, but the park is still open till 6, sometimes 7 o'clock. It is the park that closes the earliest out of the 4, and it is quite empty. It is quite empty in that late afternoon. So if you're going to ride the rides, going in the late afternoon might actually be a really, really good bet. If you don't want to take it slow, if you don't want to learn anything, you just want to ride the rides, then go in the afternoon and get in line for the Pandora ride, get in line for Dinosaur, which is a big fast ride I've never been on. Get in line and do that, right? If you aren't interested in seeing the animals, then going in the afternoon might actually be later afternoon might be a really great thing for you. So those are my 3 tips. Plan on taking it slow. Ensure you learn something. I didn't mention all the shows. Like, there are a ton of shows, and some of them are learning shows, like Feathered Friends in Flight. Yeah, I think I got that right. Go and watch a show. Like, they're really cool. This, especially if you're interested in learning something, and think about the time of day that you're going and the pros and cons of going in the morning versus going in the afternoon. So those are my 3 tips, but I have a bonus tip for you solos, and that tip is to take a look at the quote enchanted extras that are available at Animal Kingdom. So there are 4 behind the scenes activities that you can do for an additional price at Animal Kingdom. You will need to have a park ticket. So this is the price that is over your park ticket. One is a behind the scenes with elephants. Another is behind the scenes with rhinoceroses. The third is a behind the scenes with food called Savor the Savannah. And the fourth is a behind the scenes with a little bit of danger called Wild Africa Trek. And I have listed those in terms of price. It is the least expensive to do the animals and is the most expensive to do the Wild Africa Trek. So I have done everything but the Wild Africa Trek because I was kind of waiting for my sister who lives overseas to come and do it with me. I don't know, doesn't seem like she's going to come. So guess what happens when people are going to prevent you from doing cool things? You do those cool things by yourself. So I'm thinking of maybe doing it this year. But I did the elephant one. The elephant one is like really affordable. I paid $35 last year. It might be more than that, but I mean, that's around the price, right? $50 or under. And you go behind the scenes. They drive a little van to this viewing area where you can watch the elephants from a different viewing vantage point. You can't touch the elephants. You're not interacting with the elephants, but if you are an elephant fan, you get to see the elephants from a different vantage point, which is really cool. And you're with a cast member that knows a lot about the elephants, and so they will tell you about it. I thought it was a really great experience. It definitely was worth $35. I've been to Animal Kingdom so many times that to have that extra piece of information or experience was definitely worth it. It was like 45 minutes, I think. And what was really cool for me in particular was because I was taking a van behind the scenes, I got to see a lot more of the property of Animal Kingdom that's just not public facing, that's just not on show. And I thought that was really cool as well. So that was definitely worth it. The behind the scenes rhino one is a little bit more money than the elephants. And I asked why that was to the cast member. And she said it's because, well, that extra money goes towards a donation to rhinoceroses, like rhinoceros conservation, which is cool. But also you get to actually touch a rhinoceros and you go to a more like private barn where they keep the rhinoceroses. So it's not an extra viewing area of the safari like the elephants is. It is, you are going into the barn, which was pretty cool. The rhinoceros one is definitely harder to get a reservation for, so I had really high expectations. The cost difference wasn't, again, it was like a $10 difference. It wasn't a huge deal for me, the price, but because it was so much harder to get a reservation, I had much higher expectations for it, and it was cool. I definitely liked it. I would do it again, but I found that the elephant one was kind of, I guess I just had no expectations for the elephant one. So I really enjoyed the kind of simplicity of that. Whereas with the rhinoceros one, maybe I just built it up in my head too much, but that one is also very affordable. And if you're going by yourself, like it's definitely something that you might want to put in the budget. Like you won't have a fancy dinner that night. You're going to do this behind the scenes activity. Both of those require advanced reservations. So make sure you check that out. Okay, the other two, Savor the Savannah and Wild Africa Trek are like half day, well, maybe not half day, like 2-hour, 2.5-hour type of activities. With Savor the Savannah, you get in a vehicle and you go through the savannah in like a different route than you do with the regular safari vehicle. And if you have done a safari, you might actually see at one point there's this area where there's like a lookout and kind of like a table area, and sometimes you see people there. Those people are doing Savor the Savannah. And your vehicle, you drive to that area and there is some like finger foods. There was all very delicious and you eat, but you also have this really, really great vantage point in the safari. Your cast members are not just regular cast members, but cool cast members. They're not just regular cast members, they are cast members that have like zoology training. So you often do get a lot more information from them than just kind of a normal a conversation with a cast member during one of the like walking trails or whatever. And it was really great. Like it was really great. It was really special. I did it on my birthday, and I have an allergy to pineapple, so I ensured that they knew that ahead of time, although they do ask about allergies. And so I got like a whole separate little set of food, and it was like salami and dates and some fruit and a cupcake. Like it was all like really, really lovely. It was definitely worth it. Not strenuous. Like, don't worry about that. Speaking of strenuous, there's the Wild Africa Trek. So I don't know if you have ever done the safari and you're passing the alligators and you can see that there's a walking bridge that's like above the alligators. Well, that walking bridge is for Wild Africa Trek. So you are like walking through different animal exhibits. Sometimes you're going over the alligator thing. You wear a little harness and a vest that has all this equipment. And you go and you look at animals from this more dangerous vantage point. And they do have food at the end of it because it is a little bit longer. It's not as much food as like a full lunch or the Savor Savannah, but there's enough to make sure that you're not starving, and you're not uncomfortably hungry or whatever at the end. And yeah, it's more strenuous for sure. I mean, strenuous, relatively speaking, right? It's whatever. It's a little bit more quote unquote intense in the grand scheme of intensity of these four things, but it's still a really cool activity that I've really, really wanted to try. And like I said, I've been waiting for someone to do it with me that I think would really enjoy it. And it is wonderful to do things with people and to share those experiences with them. But if they're not really into it, or they are like preventing you from having those experiences, then that is the magic of solo travel. Just like go do it. Like go and do it and have a wonderful time. So like I said, I did Savor Savannah for my birthday last year, which is at the end of August. I'm thinking maybe I'll do it this year for my birthday as well, but it will really, for me, depend on the heat too. Like August and September is not great for, breathing, not sweating profusely, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, well, that wraps up another episode of talking about how you can do Animal Kingdom solo. One thing I didn't mention, although I kind of alluded to this, was how amazing all of the Imagineering is, how great it is to kind of sit and relax. What I didn't mention is that there is one signature restaurant at Animal Kingdom called Tiffin's, and in that signature restaurant, it's basically a museum exhibition to Joe Rohde, who was the main Imagineer, and the Imagineering team who went to different countries in Africa and different countries in Asia to do all of the research for what is now Animal Kingdom. So you can see like Joe Rohde's like notebook, and you can see the photographs that they took during all their scouting exhibitions. And then there's also artwork that was inspired by these different places. And it's really a really beautiful exhibit. And sometimes they don't open up this extra dining room, but there's some artwork in there, and you could ask somebody very nicely to show you. So if you're interested in those details and you want to learn something and you want to have this relaxing time, go there for lunch or dinner, but also go there to really appreciate those extra details. The Nomad Lounge, which is a really, really popular lounge, is connected to Tiffin's. You can't see quite as much of this kind of museum quality or, artifacts, things if you're just going to the lounge, but you can see some of it if you go to the bathroom. So that's another option. All right, everyone. Next episode, I'm going to talk about Disney Springs, which I'm really excited about. I also asked people online to tell me some solo tricks or tips about going to Disney Springs as an adult going by themselves to Disney, and I can't wait to talk to you. So I'll talk to you then. Bye.